It's 6 p.m. on a Wednesday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. First, here are the headlines. Cut off by its creditors and with nowhere left to turn, Hanjin Shipping files for a court receivership. The worst-case scenario from here on, complete liquidation. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, apparently still cementing his power, has reportedly executed a top official and sent 2 other senior ones for so-called re-education. After leaving a trail of death and destruction in Japan, what's left of Typhoon Lion Rock is set to make an impact in Korea. Authorities are sparing no efforts to be prepared against floods and landslides. The board of Hanjin, Korea's largest shipping company, filed for court receivership in a last-gasp effort to save it from liquidation. The nation's financial authorities convened earlier today to discuss how to limit the fallout from the shipper's rapid fall from grace. Hwang Ho-jun has our top story.
A desperate measure for the sinking shipping company, once the world's 7th biggest by capacity. Hanjin Shipping filed for court receivership on Wednesday afternoon, Korea time, after its board of directors convened in the morning and decided to go down that road. All trading in shares of Hanjin Shipping has been halted after its stock price plummeted as much as 29.1%, eventually closing at just 1,240 Korean won, or a little over $1. Court receivership will give the court full control and authority to make decisions for the company. The court will replace the current executive with a new legal administrator and will make a judgment as to whether or not Hanjin has a chance for survival. If Hanjin is deemed fit to survive, the court will start restructuring the company, potentially liquidate some assets, and manage its obligations as necessary to bring the company into a process of recovery. The court will also continue to closely monitor the company's debt repayment. If Hanjin follows through on all steps, then it graduates from receivership. On the other hand, if the court determines that its operations cannot be salvaged through restructuring, liquidation may be in order. Korea's Financial Services Commission led an emergency meeting on the situation about an hour before Hanjin announced its fateful decision. In a statement, FSC officials said they believe the filing's effect on domestic financial markets will be limited. However, to minimize the blow, they also said the government will actively look for ways for Hanjin's rival, Hyundai Merchant Marine Company, to take over ships, business networks, and its workforce.
The trade and foreign ministries, as well as other related agencies, will work closely to support workers, subcontractors, and the transportation of involved goods.
According to its mid-year report on June 30th, Hanjin had total debts of about $5.5 billion, while this week its market value tumbled to about $270 million. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Korea's rival parties are still locking horns over the approval of a nearly $10 billion budget supplement aimed at boosting the economy. They had originally agreed to approve the extra funds on Tuesday. Ji Myung-gil has the latest from the National Assembly.
The ruling Saenuri Party on Wednesday blamed the Minju Party of Korea for Parliament's failure to pass the supplementary budget, accusing the main opposition party of blocking the bill with new demands.
The Minju Party is holding up passage of the extra budget by demanding more reserve funds for education projects, as well as aid for businesses shut out of the suspended Inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex. This was not part of the agreement.
Floor leader Chung said the ruling party will not budge from what the rival parties agreed upon last week and criticized the Minju Party for frequently breaking its promises. The Saenuri Party warned that if the Minju Party continues to hold up the bill, it could move to scrap other bipartisan deals, such as hearings set for next week on aid for the shipping industry. But the Minju Party said they couldn't understand why the ruling party opposes more spending to improving the livelihoods of the people.
We just can't understand how the ruling party is willing to spend billions of dollars to supporting insolvent companies and banks when they're so stingy with financial help for ordinary people.
Floor leader Woo claimed the budget plan was drawn up haphazardly and was only needed because of the government's ongoing corporate restructuring program. With the parliament's extra session over on Wednesday, a vote on the budget bill will have to wait for the National Assembly's regular session, which kicks off on Thursday. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Another high-level official in North Korea has been executed as Kim Jong-un appears to be trying to tighten his grip on power. Two other senior officials have also been sent for so-called re-education. Connie Kim fills us in on the continued fear politics by the young leader.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's reign of terror is expanding beyond the military and the party to his cabinet. South Korea has confirmed one of the North's top officials has been executed, and two other senior officials have been sent for so-called re-education. An official at Seoul's Unification Ministry said Wednesday, North Korea's Vice Premier for Education Kim Yong-jin was put to death by firing squad sometime last month for anti-party and anti-revolutionary crimes. The 63-year-old had been investigated by the regime's State Security Department after being caught dozing off during the Supreme People's Assembly in June. Many experts have noted that Kim Jong-un is still in the process of reshuffling personnel to cement his leadership.
Kim Jong-un has barely anything to show for himself, particularly in the economy. So he's continuing his reign of terror, especially when it comes to those close to his father, Kim Jong-il, or to his uncle, Jang Song-taek, who was executed in 2013.
It's also been confirmed that Kim Young-chol, head of the North's United Front Department, which handles inter-Korean affairs, was sent for a month of re-education on a rural farm for trying to expand his department's role. He's now back on the job. Kim Young-chol is known as a leading hardliner against the South and is also believed to have masterminded the torpedo attack on the warship Cheonan back in 2010. The Secretary of the North's Propaganda and Agitation Department, Choi Hui, was also sent away for re-education in May as punishment for mishandling of the regime's propaganda activities. North Korea's killing of high-level officials for supposed disloyalty to their leader is widely known, with Kim Jong-un's execution of his uncle Jang Song-taek being a landmark case. As of last year, about 130 officials have reportedly been executed since Kim Jong-un took power in late 2011. And experts say the brutality will continue to ensure his officials' loyalty and to tighten his grip on power. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Seoul's first vice foreign minister left for Beijing today for talks with his Chinese counterpart ahead of the upcoming G20 summit. According to our Oh Jung-hee, expectations are growing for summit talks between Korea and China on the side of the main event that begins in 4 days' time.
Seoul's first vice foreign minister Im Sung-nam has arrived in China for talks with his Chinese counterpart Liu Zhenmin to make final arrangements for the G20 summit in Hangzhou, which begins this Sunday. Although neither Seoul nor Beijing have officially confirmed it, the meeting is likely to be a fine-tuning of the agenda for a Korea-China summit on the sidelines of the G20, which would bring together Presidents Park Geun-hye and Xi Jinping. If the summit talks take place, leaders of the two countries will likely touch upon South Korea's deployment of the U.S. THAAD missile defense system, over which Beijing has expressed concern regarding its security interests. President Park is expected to first and foremost seek understanding from her Chinese counterpart on the self-defense reasons for deploying the anti-missile system. At the trilateral talks held in Tokyo on last Wednesday, the foreign ministers of Seoul and Beijing had also promised to continue communicating in regards to THAAD despite their different views.
Seoul's relations with Beijing turned rather cold following its decision to deploy the U.S.-backed missile system, so the president has a primary diplomatic objective of easing tensions with Beijing.
The South Korean leader will also seek to ensure that the two maintain their united front in pressuring North Korea to give up its nuclear and missile development. Ahead of President Park's visit to China, it's expected that the South Korean vice foreign minister's visit will serve to iron out Seoul and Beijing's joint message against North Korea's provocations, including its latest launch of a submarine ballistic missile. On Tuesday at the UN Disarmament Conference, China expressed the view that every party concerned should continue to work for the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, though it didn't directly mention the North's SLBM launch or its nuclear tests. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Typhoon Lion Rock slammed into northern Japan Tuesday evening, causing floods along the Pacific coast. The record rain has led to property damages and casualties across the country's northeast. Kim Ya-sung reports.
At least 11 people were found dead in northern Japan Wednesday after Typhoon Lion Rock hit the region with torrential rain, triggering widespread flooding. Japan's Self-Defense Force has been enlisted in search and rescue operations. Japanese broadcaster NHK said police found the bodies of 9 people at an elderly care house in the town of Iwaizumi in Iwate Prefecture, which was inundated by a record 80 millimeters per hour of rain. Authorities found 2 more bodies in Iwate, one of the areas badly affected by the 2011 nuclear disaster. In the northern part of Japan's main island, more than 35,000 households lost power. On Hokkaido, the entire town of Minami Furano was flooded with water, trapping many people in their homes. Across the northern half of Japan, the storm left hundreds of people stranded and caused riverbanks to collapse. Lion Rock is the 4th typhoon this season to make landfall in Japan and the first to hit the northeast from the Pacific Ocean since records began in 1951. The Japanese Meteorological Agency said the atmosphere is still unstable and warned of potential landslides and more flooding. Lion Rock also dumped heavy rains on parts of Korea. Southern Ulleungdo in the East Sea got around 500 millimeters of rain over the last 4 days and has seen landslides and flooding. 60 people have been evacuated from the area since yesterday. A strong wind advisory and storm watch are both in place for both Ulleungdo and Dokdo. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
In related news, Korea's Ministry of Public Safety and Security shifts to emergency mode in response to the strong winds and rain hitting the country. The ministry says a low-pressure system over the East Sea saw more than 350 millimeters of rainfall on Ulleungdo Island on Tuesday, causing a drainage tunnel to collapse. Some coastal roads in Gangneung and Gosong County in Gangwon-do Province have also been closed after they were submerged under high waves. The ministry says it's working closely with local authorities to prepare against potential floods and landslides. Anti-flood pumps will be dispatched to areas prone to or with a history of flooding or landslides. Fresh figures from the Korean economy continues to alarm policymakers about protracted low growth. The country's output across all industries dropped last month, pointing to sluggish production and even consumption. Hwang Jae looks into the numbers.
Korea's output across all industries snapped a 2-month growth trend last month, edging down 0.1% from the previous month, while production in the mining and manufacturing sectors was up around 1.5% on month. Sluggish output in the services sector pulled down the country's overall output, dropping 0.7%. A lot of this had to do with the sweltering heat that withered outdoor activities, on top of other factors like a slide in stock market transactions. Retail sales dropped more than 2.5% after the government's temporary tax breaks on car sales expired at the end of June. In fact, sales of durable goods, which include automobiles, plunged nearly 10% last month. An analyst says the drop was widely expected, but not as bleak as he thought it might be.
The July figure was relatively okay compared to earlier projections, thanks to the favorable production conditions in semiconductors and IT products.
Still, the latest figure is worrisome for many in that even the country's demand side, that has been the main booster for growth recently, is taking a hit as government policies to boost spending lose steam. Uncertainties including the Brexit aftermath, the possible rate hike from the U.S. Federal Reserve, and Korea's anti-corruption law due to come into force in late September are widely expected to put a dent in spending and further threaten the country's growth momentum. Hwang Jae, Arirang News.
Companies here in Korea don't have a particularly bright outlook for the economy for September. According to the Federation of Korean Industries, the business survey index of the nation's top 600 firms came to 95 for next month. After hitting 102.3 in May, the figure has been below the 100 mark for 4 straight months. A reading below 100 means pessimists outnumber optimists. But the figure for next month does mark an uptick from August. Officials attribute that to the upcoming 3-day Chuseok, or Korea's traditional Thanksgiving holiday. The Federation of Korean Industry said the figure failed to top the 100 mark due to a prolonged economic slump. EU antitrust regulators ordered Apple to pay back the Irish government up to $14.5 billion in taxes. The largest tax penalty in European history has prompted rebukes from the tech giant along with the Irish and U.S. governments. For details, let's turn to our Yoon Shin.
The European Commission ordered Apple on Tuesday to pay nearly $15 billion in bagged taxes to Ireland, plus interest.
Apple's tax benefits in Ireland are illegal. Two tax rulings granted by Ireland have artificially reduced Apple's tax burden for over 2 decades in breach of EU state aid rules.
The Commission's 3-year investigation into favorable tax deals in the EU concluded that Apple had paid substantially less to the Irish government than other businesses. The standard rate of Irish corporate tax is 12.5%, but the Commission said Apple had effectively paid only 1% on its European profits in 2003 and about 0.005% in 2014. Both Apple and Ireland said they disagreed with the record penalty and would appeal against the ruling. In a letter published on its website, Apple said, quote, "The ruling will have a profound and harmful effect on investment and job creation in Europe." The European Commission's order also drew rebukes from the Obama administration, which said the move could undermine the economic partnership between the U.S. and Europe.
We are concerned about a unilateral approach in state aid negotiations that threaten to undermine progress that we have made collaboratively with the Europeans to make the international taxation system fair.
Low corporate tax rates in Ireland, the lowest in fact among OECD member countries, have drawn hundreds of multinationals like Facebook and Google to Dublin. The landmark ruling is likely to affect not only the Irish economy but also become a source of contention between the U.S. and Europe. Yoon Shin, Arirang News.
We have come to the end of this hour's newscast. As always, thank you for watching.